Welcome back to Making the Most of Your Handi Quilter Moxie. I'm Teri Lucas. Today we're going to talk about space, the final frontier. Space on a home sewing machine when we're quilting and space on a long arm machine when we're quilting are two entirely different things. On a home sewing machine, I have a smaller harp or throat space on the machine than I do on my Handi Quilter Moxie. I have a regular size home sewing machine, so I have maybe about 7 inches or the width from tip to tip from my thumb to my pinky, so about that much space. And in that space, I can actually get up to a king size quilt. Trust me on that one, I've done it before. The thing that I need to remember on my domestic sewing machine is that I'm quilting something about this size and then figure out how to manage the bulk of the quilt as I'm going. On our long arms, we're managing space slightly differently. And it takes a little bit of getting used to, and it's one of the biggest, beautifulest, most exciting challenges that I've had to face going from a home sewing machine to the long arm. The first thing that we get to manage is loading the quilt. There's tons of videos, and Handi Quilter has great videos for loading the quilt. When we get to the space, the throat space on the machine is 15 inches, which is great. It's fabulous. And it's the width, the entire width of the quilt. So whatever we've got here by whatever we've got here. Now there's a couple of things to keep in mind. The machine, when it hits the take-up pole and the idler pole, that is actually how much room then that you've got to quilt. Then when you move the machine back, as you can see that I'm doing here, there's a little bit of space where the machine stops, where it hits the back of the frame itself or the back of the carriage, and there's a little bit of space there to take up. There's a little bit of space there that manages where your pins are or the width of the idler pole. Okay, so there's that part. Then when you move the machine forward, depending on, you have this much space in which to quilt. This is fantastic. What actually changes is as you ratchet your quilt, or as you pull your quilt up on the quilt take-up pole, what happens is that as the quilt wraps around this particular pole right here, the bulk of the quilt starts changing the depth of space in here that you have to quilt. Okay, so that's fine. We can manage that really well. We just know how much space that we have, and that the space that we have width-wise or depth-wise changes over the course of time. If we've got a little quilt, it's not going to change a lot. If we've got a bigger quilt, it can change significantly as we're rolling up the quilt. Not a problem. One of the biggest challenges that I've found is managing not only the width that I have, but the length that I have in order to quilt. Again, not really a problem, it's just a different mindset. I can't go all over the quilt to do the quilting, but I can move consciously with the quilting. So I get to think about what I'm going to put here, roll the quilt, and then how I'm going to continue things. So as you're looking to use your Handi Quilter Moxie, just bear in mind that there are a couple of new things to think about. One is the depth and how it changes as we take the quilt up, and the width. So let's go have some fun with our Handi Quilter Moxie.